Hello everyone and welcome to your horoscope for the week of November the 14th, 2022. We have a really active and powerful sky with a super scorpionic, or better said, water, so emotional, spiritual, and the watery kind of desire type of intensity. And we also have still the reverberation of the past two eclipses. But fortunately, we also have a positive, like a breath of fresh air kind of energy shift, because Mercury and Venus this week are leaving the sign of Scorpio and entering into the sign of Sagittarius. And even in alchemy, even in mythology, even in, let's say, astropsychology, this is such a relevant moment because Scorpio represents the toxicity, the intensity of the toxicity, because the toxicity is used by, let's say, the symbol of the sign himself, the scorpion, to catch the prey and also, defend himself. Because very few people know that the scorpion actually has two types of venom, two types of toxins, so to speak. So nature already reflects, as above so below, of course, the ingenious design of this basically part of the sky, which is also part of our reality, the scorpion, the toxicity. When the scorpion needs to paralyze its prey to make sure it cannot fight back or escape, to hunt, it uses the paralytic type of venom, which, of course, very quickly, as I said, paralyzes and gives a swift demise to the prey because it will not be able to breathe. Now, there is another type of venom which the scorpion only uses when he is attacked by predators or, and that is a fulminating venom which causes extreme pain but may not really be lethal. But the pain will definitely be enough for the predator if he survives, of course, because the predator can die of that extreme pain. But if they survive, they will definitely, in a very Pavlovian way, will keep that in their memory, whatever happened with the scorpion. So we can see that the function of this energy, this divine design, is dual to get what we want and make sure that after the pincers of the scorpion, we fix what we want, we keep it, we consume it, it's ours, we integrate it into the self. Venus and Mercury in the sign of Scorpio. Venus, the emotional integration, the pleasure, the satisfaction that it gives us, and Mercury, the reasoning, the rationality, how it very much makes sense, and how this translates into mental power, because the know-how will be the seed of a new experience, a similar new experience, the repetition, so to speak. Now, the other thing is when we need to defend ourselves psychologically, morally, spiritually, or quite physically, the instinct Scorpio, then we also need to tap into these scorpionic energies within us. But naturally, this can be used in so very many different ways. Business, Scorpio energy is fantastic. For business investigations, getting to the bottom of things, how to multiply money, how to manage debt, how to make big or, something, a lot out of very little, how to improvise a lot, how to alchemize, how to temper with stuff. So we can see that it's neither positive or negative really, it's truly a matter of choice and of judgment every second when we have each and every time when we tap into the scorpionic energies. And this was greatly highlighted in so very many different ways in the past 2 weeks, let's say. So a lot has happened. We lost loved ones. Um, we lost material values, but we gained wisdom, we gained release, we gained clarity. The sigh of relief moment came as well. Moments of big wisdom, moments of big inner truth, moments of great awakening. So the element of transformation and loss was present, but at the same time, the fortifying nature of the experience is what's coming online, especially now, because as Mercury and Venus head into Sagittarius, the understanding, the philosophy, and what we do, the authority over the Scorpion, because the arrow, the eye of the sniper, which is the centaur, of course, is aiming at the heart of the Scorpion. Would it misuse the venom? Would it wish to, let's say, consumed out of sheer greed? Then the arrow will surely strike its heart, and it will not be able to envenom anyone. And another particularity of the creature, the living scorpion, is if even a microfracture takes place at the stinger, the scorpion dies within half an hour regardless, even if it's an insignificant, you know, microfracture, a small accident, or a I don't know, aimed sting. Yet still, it triggers the shutdown, even if the scorpion is in excellent health, even if there are no consequences. So you can imagine that as powerful as the venom is, there is a strong vulnerability, and that is the truth. The arrow of the centaur, the highest philosophy, faith, belief, the power of hope and optimism, all of which are Sagittarian traits. But of course, there is a strong alchemical synergy in the sky because before Venus and Mercury together, almost, hand in hand, one after another, Venus first enter into the sign of Sagittarius, they hold a trine with Jupiter, the ruling planet of Sagittarius, in Jupiter's ancient ruling sign, also home of Pisces, so a very powerful Jupiter, which means business retrograde. It needs to close, it needs to dissolve, it needs to release, it needs to complete those fated things that were once built and got to a point where they need completion. May this be an energy, may this be a story, may this be a feeling, may this be a relationship. This doesn't have to mean a termination, but life will not be the same after. And this is when we process it. So yes, Jupiter holds a trine with Venus and Mercury. That is the moment when it deeply comes, or better said, it reaches our deepest awareness, even that of a soul level, of what just happened in our lives, our fate. This is when we see the big picture of who we are as a being, regardless of our faith, our belief system, our mindset, what kind of personality we possess or we built or we choose to have. Because this is when we truly need to look at the big picture. Who am I? What have I done in my life so far? What is the meaning of it? And how am I taking all of this understanding, experience into the future? So this is where we understand big things about ourselves, about our family, about the closest souls to us, people who hurt us the most, people who loved us the most. So this is big energy. But as soon as both this Venus and Mercury enter into Sagittarius at 0 degrees, they still hold an outer sign trine to Jupiter. So that's directly, the two signs of Sagittarius. This is where we get a very, very, very deep understanding. But when this happens in Sagittarius, that's also, whatever was troubling us just went up into the air, into the sky, almost like an invisible hand lifted it off from us, out of us, and new hope, new plans, new ideas, the Sagittarian vibe, when we just believe, when belief isn't necessarily self-generated out of sheer ambition and will, one of the particularity of any fire sign, both Sagittarius, you generate, and it's there and it works, but you generate it. There is sometimes when it just happens, when it's just gifted to it, a strong, let's say, state of believing in something, of faith, and this doesn't need to be religious or spiritual, believing in ourselves, in a dream, in a desire, in a truth, in our future, in an ambition, a hobby, whatever it is, something already starts to elevate us. Not at the beginning of the week. That's why I haven't moved the days yet, because the beginning of the week is still the heaviness. Yet, as you see, the trines are still operational, where this Mercury and Venus trines Neptune and Jupiter. So this is the big picture. But look, at the same time, this is a grand trine, because the moon, close to Black Moon Lilith, of course, is also making this trine that much bigger, that much more powerful. The moon in the sign of Cancer, family. This is where it's not just us, it's everyone who belongs to us on a soul level who gets this release, or the blessing, or the understanding, or the reason to move on, or the moment of moving on. This is where we truly are invited to move on. And this, again, I have to say, is a powerful moment of emotional rebirth, let's say, when something new just bursts out of the pain, out of the loss, out of the grief, out of the chaos. Even if it doesn't really make sense and you even feel guilty, instead of drowning, you feel like floating and wanting to close this chapter and already move on. So there is this element to it where strength can be born, even in the most unusual circumstances. You see, we have Pluto quincunx Mars. Where does strength lie? Sometimes it surprises us where strength lies. Other times, for example, my own situation, strength lies in weakness. This is where we have to sometimes, maybe the first time in life, have to admit that we cannot help. We are powerless totally in a situation, and all we can do, like everyone else, just hope for the best, wish for the best, and be observers and stay in belief that a person, for example, can overcome something. But as in action-wise, Mars in Gemini retrograde, we're powerless. And strength, release, and sometimes actually resolution lies in admitting one's powerlessness and weakness. So, as I said, this is where what strength and power, Pluto, of course, means. We have to look even in the most unusual places to find it. Or would it find us? We need to accept a strength that just comes from nowhere. Really. So, Another energy at play is this Black Moon Lilith trining Neptune. And this is really, really relevant because Black Moon Lilith and Cancer, well, that is, maternal, aggressive maternal survival instinct and overprotection meets emotion. And of course, as I said, this can apply to the family dynamics which I mentioned, but this applies psychologically to us without even having family involved, because we are our own moons. We need to care for ourselves. And if anyone in any relation, husband, wife, child, or poses an emotional threat, as in they will upset us, they will hurt us, they will use us, okay, they're family, so they are allowed to, but explain that to Black Moon Lilith. This is when we snap. This is when we bite back. Even people who had basically our serenity taken for granted because they're family or they're this and that, sometimes everyone bites back. Because Black Moon Lilith will find a way to bite back, even if you are like a Zen person. However, that is wisdom. When you bite back sometimes, that is how you teach other people what your maximum limits are. So it is needed. It's a trine. It's a blessing. So it's Black Moon Lilith in this situation is not really a portal of unholiness, so to speak. But we must also look at a different situation she's in. And if I put the asteroids on here, as you can see, she is conjunct Pallas Athena. So Pallas Athena is also part of the Grand Trine. Tactics and Pallas Athena in the sign of Cancer. You know, that female intuition, the desire to protect, to nurture. So this is where you can be a man, a father, a male, and this is perfectly valid in you as well. She will find a way or find the strength or find whatever it takes. With Black Moon Lilith giving her extra impulse, this is where we find the strength to accomplish the impossible in any way, shape, and form. And for some people, this is even spiritually, because your spiritual gravity under this energy will manifest. Simple as that. So, desperate needs will be met. Quite surprisingly, because this energy almost forces everything to manifest, especially the emotional, especially the wisdom of the mind, of feelings, of understanding the watery parts of ourselves. And in physical reality, the watery parts, well, they make up a large percentage of our body, so this matters a lot. Of course, Black Moon Lilith is squared by Eris. Eris and Pluto, so she opposes Pluto, and with planetoid Hermia, who actually went into Scorpio, so she's not an energetic Libra anymore, but we can still see the square, the reminiscence of the square. So there is tension here. There is elements of great surprise. There is elements of big truth. There is great turnaround of events, but all in the name to give a closure, a completion, and to be able to step into the new. And the energy that follows comes after. But this is one of those moments where actually Black Moon Lilith has a really positive role. She needs to do what she needs to do. Exactly. So, we can move a little bit now. Oh, again, I want to look at the aspects, look at the intensity, look at the trines, the blessing basically, the flow of the divine, the fated elements coming together. But look also at the squares. The squares in this configuration kind of represent how much of this depends on our work, our choice, our wisdom, our us managing things correctly, then look at the sextiles. The sextiles tell us how much of this depends on our willingness, our strive, our focus, and our determination to put in the extra effort regardless of what I'm doing it. That's the sextile. We fruitify our blessings. So when there is both sextile and trine energy in the sky simultaneously, that usually means that work does a lot of good. That work works, as in the effort will work this time. There are moments in life when better be opportunistic, but there are certain energies when they say work, seriousness, and truly committing to whatever you need is guaranteed to take you very, very far. And this is such a sky, especially psychologically, emotionally, mental health. Because Mars in Gemini, this is where we need to heal. And this energy, of course, is the verse for those people who, over prolonged years, kind of immersed into the role of the victim. The condition, the vulnerability, the disability, the whatever it is that causing dysfunction and pain and suffering, that is already a weapon, that's already like a best mate, where it gets you everywhere. This energy terminates that when people who felt into the victim role and just got asleep into that are gonna be awoken now that look, okay, but right now you're not a victim, do whatever it is that you need to do. But the proper way, as in, right now you cannot use the, as I said, whatever makes these people a victim to help you out. This is where you really need to put in everything. And, personal excuses, because this is with the divine. This is like divine justice, Jupiter, or divine timing, or divine resolution. This is where you are dealing with the divine and you cannot tell it how unfair it is, because the divine will say, I don't care about human laws, ethics, morality. This is me, between me and you. If you know what I mean. So, this is a wake up moment. And look at all the squares here. These squares represent that we need to be wise, disciplined, and find a good balance between self-containment and self-expression. Because there will be situations, moments when we need to express our truth. Let's black moon with it. But there will be moments, let's not forget the Saturn square, T-square really, where we need to contain our dissatisfaction, pain, etc., etc. So moving on, this is where Venus is becoming anoretic. This is the moment when she holds the trine with Jupiter. The trine is almost in perfection. So yes, Venus in Scorpio. This is how things turned out. This is how things played out. This is what we had. This is how far we came. And whatever we have right now, we have to, as I said, into Sagittarius. Use that as strength to aim for the future, to aim for the next chapter, or to aim for the accomplishment of our higher aspirations. And the first step for that is to invite new higher aspirations inside our hearts, our minds, our beings, when some energies are definitely exiting our being, our story, our mind, our hearts, our karma forever. Exactly the South Node activity, the energetic, karmic, and emotional excrement. But that which is excrement to us is nurture for the universe. So this is the moment when the universe is receptive for us to release all that cannot coexist with us inside of us in the future. And then Mercury is going to be trining this Jupiter so soon. It is already trining, actually. What am I speaking about? It is conjunction. So they're trining Jupiter together. The mind is there. The mind is there to understand. The mind is there to cooperate, to process, to hand down this experience, this wisdom, this whatever for future generations, regardless if it's writing a book, a painting, a song, a memo, your stories to your grandchildren, whatever that is, this is gonna be shared, however fate turns out. But of course, this is just the energy. The big play out is over the course of a month, maximum 6 months, but I very much doubt that it needs that much time, because, but just like, a lawyer or a doctor, we need to give a term which kind of covers. But yeah, all this week I imagine we're already feeling it and knowing what our closures and also what our new beginnings are going. But as I said, there is this moment where we need to invite the new ideal or the upgraded old ideal back into our beings, into our lives. Our minds fall in love with it, dare to dream big, but we can only do that if we truly try our hardest to let go of that which is being released. Of course, if that's possible, because there will be some people who are deeply impacted by the eclipses and they need time. They need time. But for them, this can be help. This can be inner fortitude. This can be a much quicker finding your balance to function than normally. So there is blessing in the sky for everyone. And Jupiter, again, I have to come back to this theme, divine justice, karmic resolutions. This is where faith, philosophies, principles, what you believe, and your relationship with your spirit, with the universe, with the divine, or your worldview, what you as a being think about existence in its larger sense. You are the one who determines your limits. You can just see existence as life in your immediate community, and you don't give that many F's about further. Or you can see existence, in a multi-dimensional and beyond that kind of way. So there is a difference between how many and what type of limitations we create for ourselves. But this energy, as I said, moves us further and deeper. This is where even those people who are extraordinarily satisfied with their world and universe and cosmos being just their immediate environment, this is where there's an opening. And they can, for the first time perhaps, like it or not, see beyond, and at least they can have an opinion. Because they can make up their mind what beyond feels like, is like, sounds like to them personally. A taster of an experience that is not gonna, do any harm to anyone, is it? But to some people, exactly that taster of a new experience. But again, I must say, this is more like an inner truth kind of energy. For some people, it can be associated quite physically. A type of food, a taste, gets you started in the next chapter, for example, or it gets you somewhere where you get that big philosophical understanding. But for others, it can just be a dream. It can just be a song. It can just be the words of another person. It can just be, how many times do common people, just people, doesn't matter your relations to them, unwillingly channel big things? Either they're, distracted, drunk, but when they say something, You just know that they just channel, even if it's just a phrase, but that phrase is so epiphanous that you know that they kind of unwillingly channeled it. This is where that kind of energy is all around us. Everyone is kind of channeling a little bit. So don't be surprised if big truths come to you in unexpected ways from unexpected people. Because let me give you an example, especially with the sextiles and the quincunx energies as well. Um, you would not expect the lady in the shop who you know and you converse with her every single day and you know what she's into and what she's definitely not. Maybe to start the next. I'm improvising here, so just give me a moment. The next holiday idea for you, which will start a new chapter in your life because you will go to a place and something will appeal to you, and you know how reality builds itself. And it can be when that lady who you would least expect it from unwillingly channels a pearl of wisdom or something, and you just know that it wasn't the lady really, but you're so glad that, she was open in that millisecond when she allowed that divine information into her unwillingly again. So during this week, this is where everyone is kind of channeling. So friend or foe or your relation to people will not matter as much as I said, either their mental vomit or a pearl of wisdom or something random they say, but which is like a piece of your puzzle, and they just channeled it. And of course, we are going to be part of other people's puzzles as well. So everyone is in this picture. And I really like to think that this is the more fun side of Mercury retrograde in Gemini, because Gemini is also very, very joyous, light-hearted, like butterfly energy, in the sense that it doesn't matter how wonderful the thought is, as long as it's playful, it's going, even in lightning, even if as a moth to the flame, it's absolutely fine, because what matters is the moment of freedom itself, the moment of playfulness, the moment of beauty. Gemini is the kind of energy which knows by instinct that nothing is eternal. So it's very, very good at appreciating that fraction of the second of perfection. That millisecond when freedom is there, or whatever it is there, and Gemini feels a massive completion when that happens, if you know what I mean. So it's very playful, it's very light-hearted, and there is great power in that. So this is when we can get also the very, very best of Gemini energy. Yes, absolutely, the square between Mars and, let's move on, Neptune is becoming more and more exact. Oh wait, I have to move back a little bit. Yeah, here. So we are going to be feeling this distractions, mental wishy-washiness, but it can be an excess and overflood of inspiration, epiphanies, plans, ideas, project, dreams. A lot of good can overflow your boat also, but we need to contain it and discipline it. We need to somehow sort it out. Not allowing this, of course, is not an option with Jupiter being here, but at the same time, allowing it to overflood us, even if it's the best thing possible, that's also not an option. This isn't very beautiful, let's say, if, as I said, we're those kind of people who are really, really immersed into our condition, our mental health problems, our drama, our divorce, our pain, our solitude, our loneliness. If we are, up to our noses in the deep, immersed in it, and we want to be there, because we want to be there, this energy is hard, very, very hard. But, this is also the kind of energy that We quit certain behaviors when they almost drown us, and that's the wake-up call. So, and of course, needless to say, out there in the world, this can represent again the return of water, flooding, the destructive element of water. And even in our lives in a smaller way, like pipe leakages, sewage, problems, washing machine problems, which I had experienced. That was more like the Mars part, but the water, Jupiter and Neptune was in the machine, threatening me to flood me, if you know what I mean. So the psychological terror was there, and the water didn't need to physically flood me because I was afraid enough of it, if you know what I mean. But all of that is water terrorizing you. And this happens in our lives, and we don't even know it. And very many times, actually, water terrorizes us. Fear of water, but fear of an emotion, fear of a lack, fear of a disappointment, all of that is also water terrorizing us. And this day is special, also the 16th, because this is when Venus moves into the sign of Sagittarius. And this is gonna be a shift of feeling, a shift of mood, a shift of values. This is where the scorpionic intensity and the fixed energy finally starts to break off, especially with Mercury following. Yes, Sagittarius is not Mercury's most favorite sign, because it's the opposite sign of Gemini. And, it can give Mercury extreme confidence. So, big ideas, big dreams, big plans, big dates and times, big expenses, very, very unrealistic calculations, very, very, very unrealistic, confidence in our managing skills. Yet, this is just a small part of the potential disruptances of this energy. The good part is when, yeah, we made the international phone call, we speak our truth with confidence, with elation, we're feeling it, we're, even our mind is flooded with the sense of adventure, the new, the extraordinary, the exotic. We're not as shy mentally, let's say. And quickness, superficiality, strong superficiality. Because of the quickness, quick energy, quick travels, but the disruption, the surprising turnaround and change of dates and stuff like that is also, the swiftness is part of the picture without a shadow of a doubt. For example, the tarot energy of Mercury and Sagittarius is the Eight of Wands. It's good, but sometimes it's way too quick. So even if it happens quickly and it's good, we still need 2 months to come to the conclusion how good it is, if you know what I mean. So, yeah. Of course, there will come a moment when both this Venus and Mercury and then later on the Sun will oppose Mars retrograde. That will be a moment when, things will really hang in a balance. But perhaps until that moment comes, whatever hangs in the balance will be just a matter of option preference and what would be more ideal and not the big picture, if you know what I mean. Perhaps we already know the big picture due to the eclipses. But it's, as I said, a breath of fresh air. It really, really is. And then here is the 17th, and now Mercury is also in the sign of Sagittarius along with Venus. Mercury and Venus, of course, are conjunct, they're hand in hand. And that, as I said again, it's wonderful. Really, it is, because this fresh, optimistic, uplifting, elevating, spiritually elevating Sagittarian energy. Well, this kind of is like a rubber ducky, to be totally honest with you. Because we're in the deep due to this Neptune and Jupiter collectively as well, and this is like a rubber ducky. And it helps a lot. It really, really does, because it keeps us on the surface, and the helicopter comes and takes us to the stars. So yeah, that's how this energy can act like a spark of greater hope that just changes the whole mood. But let's not forget that this also has quite practical consequences, because Sagittarius, Jupiter here, truth, courts of justice, international travel, airports, legal documents. So they will also have a thumbs up, so to speak, that they're gonna start circulating. Of course, when the opposition happens with Mars retrograde, that's the moment of blockage when, slow down and, second opinion, second guess, second this, that. But it will very quickly resume the haste, the speed of things. So it's not really bad. It's quite good. Now, of course, that then Jupiter will square um, Mercury and Venus, and then later on the Sun. But that's actually a good square, because we will get what we chose, as in, it amplifies it, it magnifies it. We will see the fruits of our choices, let's say, of our inner truth, or whatever we fought in the courts of justice. We get a resolution, we get something, and internationally as well. And also later on, as I said, when Mercury will oppose Mars, blockage in airports, strikes, um, travel disruptions, food shortages might be a problem due to international transport blockages. There might be problems with communication, technology, the internet. So we can expect a lot of not so pleasant surprises when this opposition perfects itself. But there's still time for that. Right now we get the good stuff, the dreams, the optimism that let's make it. There's every single reason in the world why you can make it, why you can do it. Dream big, believe. So yeah, but we need this so much. We really, really do. But the danger again, let's not allow this Jupiter and Neptune squaring Mars to make us like foolishly bold. Like, let's not lose tune with reality, or let's not think that we're the center of the universe because we're really good at something, for example. So we must not let this energy get in, way into our heads, because then the Jupiter square will slap us. If we manage this correctly, and we truly have the lightheartedness for it, we are going to be rewarded handsomely. And also, before I don't forget, the 17th is a very dear friend of mine's solar return birthday. So I would like to wish him very happy birthday, solar return. And may you be blessed with good health, regeneration, and long life. So let's move on. So as you can see, Venus and Mercury are still conjunct in Sagittarius. Black Moon Lilith is now perfecting her square with Eris, planetoid Eris. So this will be a time when things will stir. This will be a time also when on the world stage we'll see ethnical problems resurfacing, border issues, percentage of population, due to ethnical stuff, religious stuff, all the differences between nations and stuff like that is going to be highlighted deeply. And there might be even some extreme gestures here, because Eris likes to play tough. But, Black Lilith also trines Neptune, so I see this as the darker trine, where, the old conflict, the old intolerance, the old hatred, and put this in any international and ethnical and race and ideological religious context you want, it's still there. So, yeah, it's still there, but this energy may reflect it to us that it's still there, not in a positive way, but it's still there because you haven't done anything about it. So, time to grow up as a species, as whatever, and resolve these conflicts. So, that's the positive. That's why it's a trine, because it determines us to go and solve our collective issues as well. Not really forever and as a miraculous solution, but trying attempts more positive attitude in this sense, that is already absolutely fine. That's what really we need. And moving on. So, towards the very end of the week, as we can see, the Sun is already getting in an erratic position in Scorpio. So yeah, the trine to Jupiter. This is when whatever happened really, really sinks in. Because the Sun is ultimately, can be seen as the ego. This is where also the unconscious part of our being accepts it, deals with it, or, the moment of processing. But the alchemy, the transformation, the healing, Jupiter dissolving the pain, the moment of forgiveness, the moment of understanding, the big, big tears. Tears wash away stuff, the bad stuff. So this is the energy of regeneration and healing, alchemy, and needless to say, whenever Jupiter is in the sign of Pisces, the power of unconditional love, the power of, prayer, spiritual practice, devoting thyself to the divine, to the source, to something much higher than the human realm can permit. And, there are moments of grief, there are moments when no living person on the planet can help you, neither would you want the help of any living person on the planet. There are situations, moments, feelings, especially with the most spiritual people, when it is what it is. Another living person would even come as an irritant, as no way. But there is the divine, especially when the problem lies with people. If you feel it in your heart that people are so very bad to you that you simply don't have the love in your heart anymore, for a period, dedicate that love to the divine instead of people, because the divine is alive in people, so you indirectly basically do something very, very wonderful with your energy, and healing comes to you. This is where every cleric has burnout in their careers. And for example, in the Orthodox religion, if a cleric loses the S word, short fuse, or does something, well, he's sent into a monastery for 6 months. Now, if that cleric happens to be a monk as well, then monastery ultimately is his home anyway. So he's sent into total solitude in the forests, in the mountains for a year to find and fix his relationship with the divine source, and come back with a new understanding of himself, where he either wants to quit and pursue a new path, or he comes with an understanding. But this goes for all of us. There are moments when the earthly, and I don't mean materially necessarily, but quite spiritually disappoints us. There are moments when, regardless of what kind of spiritual elation you usually have in your life, there are moments when simply your being refuses to play ball and says, no, the earthly is not a good source of spiritual satisfaction because people and even animals and nature herself and the divine laws within nature are jerks. And no one could disagree with that because the destruction, the unfairness is ultimately part of the large picture and the divine beauty. Sometimes it is the intensity of the imperfection within the stone, jewel, whatever, that gives us its value. So it's not going to disappear, but of course, everyone's soul, everyone's, even, let's go as far as spirit, will have a moment when they have enough. And the logical thing to do is to take a pause, take time out, even with spirit, when you no longer connect to the living, manifested spirit, but just to the ethereal one, Jupiter in the sign of Pisces. And what I'm actually saying is okay not to love people, not to love matter. It's okay not to love even nature. It's okay to totally disagree with the laws of nature or how the divine architecture plays out right now, right here, with you, with anyone else. It's everyone's right to disagree. Take a time out and basically not give your love to that which disappoints you, because that's how it turns toxic. Give your love to that which doesn't disappoint you. The divine is there, spirits are there, ether is there, art is there, poetry is there, dreams are there. The only thing is that you don't share them until you start feeling the love again. If you do not feel the love, share it with the divine. And don't feel guilty, because this is part of every soul's journey. There are moments in every soul's journey when it's eclipsed, when the big love, elation, the unconditional Christ spirit for the earthly and even for our co-brethren or co-creations or whatever, the great communion that we also belong to, you don't feel it. So it's absolutely fine. No one says everyone has to feel it 24/7 non-stop. The desire is, of course, to live in that serenity. But we also live within nature, as I said, so disruptions, stormy weathers, eclipses are part also of the picture, and the coping mechanism is exactly that. Give your love to that which doesn't disappoint you, and it's absolutely okay morally, spiritually, divine justicely. Of course, your citizens or whatever will ask you, well, why don't you love us anymore? And you will tell you your truth, and they will, well, aren't you a cold, bad person? And you will say, I don't care what you think, because I'm happy with the way I solved the problem. So yes, there are also moments when we do not help. There are moments when we don't feel the love, and that usually can get into a great depression, or it can get into a infinitely wonderful spiritual level elevation, if you give the love to the divine, and it will show you new knowledge, new ideals, new philosophies, new way of life, and yes, even new people who will slowly and surely, in their chaotic, extreme, unusual to you ways of life, ways of whatever, will start undisappointing you. This is how it usually works. But in order to get undisappointed, one actually has to admit that I don't love this or that or whatever anymore. As I said, that Simple eclipse of love is which can get into a heavy, deep depression where we kind of start seeing everything, the whole world as our prison and enemy. Or we can, as I said, do the opposite and allow the dissatisfaction of the earthly to elevate us to something that which is beyond our dreams. Exactly these moments of not loving, you know, the earthly anymore is when which births the greatest magicians, spiritualists, seers, oracles, clerics, even doctors. Why not? Any kind of healer and any kind of person which embodies the spirit one way or another. So, as I said, let's not look at the bad examples of how it can turn so very bitter, sour, and toxic. Let's choose to look at the positive examples of how much certain I'm not loving it or I'm not living in love anymore elevated some souls to, cosmic level even, because in ancient times, according to the legends, these big moments of giving love to the divine instead of earthly at the moment of when you don't feel it anymore usually brought the main character of these stories to the stars and made constellations out of them. So yes, this is part of the energy this week. So thank you so much for listening. I do hope that this helped, and again, my advice, as heavy as it can get, let's choose to focus on the more divine side of this, because the divine love is definitely there in great, great, great excess. So thank you so much for listening.